A new focus on militias has emerged with the FBI bust of a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. But militias are not new to Michigan, and my next guest actually spent time with members of the Michigan militia shortly after the Oklahoma City bombing.
This country is heading to civil war because this is the final step.
What do you think about my idea of maybe if it would be better if we had more than two political parties?
How about if we frighten the guys that are in there and the gals that are in there?
Which political party is going to say, we put the uniforms on and pick the guns up so that they would watch us, so they would see us, and they would have to hear us and listen to us. But we're down to two options and two options only. Either you listen to us or you destroy us.
Filmmaker Michael Moore is joining me right now. Michael, good to have you back on the broadcast. Let's take a look at this because this incident here that we just witnessed, this was the 90s, of course, but some of these sentiments probably still hold today. First of all, how long have militias been around in Michigan, and were they always seen as a threat?
Well, white supremacy, let me just say this first of all about Michigan, because I grew up there, I still live there, that people of Michigan, in Flint elected the first black mayor in the country back in the mid-'60s. We passed the first open housing ordinance by election back in the mid-'60s. So we have a long history. The UAW as a union was one of the first to demand integration of the assembly line. So strong history of doing well and treating people well. Sadly, though, since back in the 30s, with Father Coughlin's radio show. There's no one alive now that's going to remember this, but there was a radio show. It was the most popular radio show in the country back in the 30s, demanding that we do not enter World War II, that we be sympathetic to the Germans. And it was an awful white supremacist show that came out of a Catholic church in Royal Oak, Michigan. So from that point on, all the time while I was growing up, this kind of racism and things, you hear this, but the militias really took hold once the auto factories started to close in the late 70s. Flint, the city of Flint, by the early 80s, had an unemployment rate, official unemployment rate, of 29%. So many people lost their jobs, and the right wing was there to recruit, and that's what they did, and they formed militias. The first time I interviewed, it was actually I had the Grand Dragon of the Michigan Ku Klux Klan on my radio show in Flint. I had a radio show back then called Radio Free Flint when I was 20-some years old. And I've listened to them, and I've had them. Terry Nichols, who blew up the Oklahoma City building with Timothy McVeigh, he graduated the same year from high school I did, and he went to the high school right to the east of mine in Lapeer, Michigan. So I've known these guys for a long time. So when I see them, when I saw them back in April at the state capitol, I don't know those guys specifically, but I know those kind of guys. I went to high school with some of them. Their bark sometimes is bigger than their bite. And what they want to do, what the leader of the Michigan militia at that time, right after Oklahoma City, and McVeigh and Nichols had trained with the Michigan militia, what they said was they want to be heard. And that's why I was suggesting, why don't you start a political party? You can do that. There are nonviolent ways to be heard and to enter the political fray. But I have to say that I think what I want people to do is not be afraid to go to the polls, whether it's in Michigan or anywhere else. A lot of these guys, they have a lot of guns, but remember, there are some very, very, very small percentage of this country. And I know people are really frightened when they see this. That's what they want. They want you to be frightened. Don't be frightened. There's more of us than there are of them. Many more of us than there are of them. And I think love and peace and compassion will win the day. What I also want to, and what I've said to them is, look, your white supremacy thing, you're going to have to change. The country has changed. White people are going to be the minority in the 2040s. So you better get used to it. Why not get used to it now? It's going to be good. Yeah. It's actually going to be good.
Listen, I want to echo your sentiment about, don't be afraid. Get out there and vote. When we all vote, all the different organizations, it could not be more important right now. But let me ask you, because a lot of people have certainly their intent of going to the vote and potentially voting out President Trump. Has the
Yes.
Trump era changed the militia movement? Has there been influence there? And if so, anything
yes.
specific you can note?
They've never had a leader in the White House. The militias, the white supremacists, have never literally had the leader of the country sitting in the White House. They never, in their wildest dreams, ever thought that could happen. So this has been very good for them. But Trump, Trump is not. He's not going to be able to fulfill their hopes and dreams because he's. I don't know how to put this. Look, let me make this point. We have white supremacy not just amongst those who are the poor white working class. We have white supremacy in this country among the ruling elites, amongst the rich. The rich, look at the Forbes 400. Look who's on the board of directors of all of our major corporations, of our universities. Just go through our whole system. Mm-hmm. White people have been running the system, and they figured out how to take over without using guns. Yeah. They kidnap, quote, governors and senators and politicians with paying money to them, and then they own them, and then they get what they want. And what they want is different than what these guys. Well, all these guys want a job, and they want a decent middle class income. Most of them do. The informants are the people. They were part of the group, yeah. And when the group started going wackadoodle, talking about killing cops, they were like, "Whoa, I'm out of this." And then they became informants for the FBI. But imagine if these guys all had a decent job, made $60,000, $70,000 a year. Would we have this problem? Yeah. Would people be able to recruit them into this militia?
So look, just as people may want to go to the polls and vote out the president, there are going to be a lot of people who also want to go to the polls and vote for this president. The important thing is that everybody gets out there and votes. But as you
get out there and be with and be with other people, and we're going to be okay.
100%.
And also, I just want to say that there are other acts of violence that we need to be talking about leading up to this election. Paying people $7.25 an hour is an act of violence. Going to the Supreme Court to get rid of Obamacare so that millions will be uninsured and die as a result. That's an act of violence. Saying that we want to take away Roe v. Wade when 70% of the country supports Roe v. Wade and forcing women back into back alley abortions, that's an act of violence. So, and who is doing this? These white men, Trump, are committing these acts of violence, and we need to see them as that. And I think that if we kind of wrap our heads around that and realize that we're the majority, that Biden and Harris are out there and they're telling us they're going to do things for the people. Don't we all believe, first of all, just with the coronavirus, that we're going to be in better shape come January, that at least there's going to be a plan and there's going to be action, and we're going to do what Germany did, and we're going to do what these other countries did, and we're going to get rid of this damn thing. Right now, we've got Trump in some crazed state. More and more people are dying. It's all going up. We've got to fix this. And I just encourage everybody to vote, to get out and vote. Vote this week if you can. Yeah. Vote by mail this week if you can. Don't put this off. We're in a dangerous place. Our lives are at stake, and I'm much more worried about that than I am, some guys running around with guns and trying to figure out how to kidnap the governor. Not to say that this isn't important, but let's.
Of course.
I mean, what did the one guy say? He was mad that he couldn't go to the gym, and I thought, well, looking at these guys, the picture you put up there of them, good on them that they wanted to go to the gym.
Let me ask you quickly, last question, and that being with this 2020 race, 23 days ahead, is there anything that worries you? Where do you see this thing headed?
I'm worried that people are going to start to take for granted that Biden's going to win.
Complacency.
You need to wake up every morning over these next 23 days. You need to wake up every morning with this thought in your head. Trump pulled it off before. He lost by 3 million votes and became the president of the United States. I don't know how to do that. He did it. He can do it again. Do not Do not take him for granted and act as if today is the day that Trump is going to win his second term. Everybody must behave like this in these, and you must make a list of 5 to 10 people that you know don't vote and hold out your hand to them and say, I know you don't want to vote. I get it. Just do it for me. Just this once. Just this once.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't do it again. But there's 100 million non-voters in this country. It's the largest political party. All we need are just a couple million of them in the right states, and we will be done with this madness.
Well, you may be somewhat encouraged to see, by comparison, the incredible number of early voting. People have been mailing in, and people who are going to the ballots and trying to vote in person early. I know a lot of states are offering that as well. So listen, Michael Moore, it's always good to talk with you. And thanks so much for your insights. Really fascinating history about the Michigan militias. Thank you. So Judge Amy Coney Barrett released her opening statement ahead of her confirmation hearing tomorrow. And depending on how you read it, you're either alarmed or you're calmed. Two powerful legal minds are going to react to it next.